Welcome to the Podatron Network.
Just Keep Living to me now means I get it. And one of the things about Just Keep Living is that I wanted to have a place where people would feel safe. It really isn't enough to be right. You have to be effective. And you'll learn that the more breaths that you take, the more grace that you're given, the more opportunities that you have to just keep living. Just Keep Living with Marva Hanks. Marva Hanks at the Black Film Festival here in Denton, Texas for the Podatron Network. On this series of Just Keep Living, my guest this week is Quin Early, former NFL, current Hollywood stuntman, producer, writer, director, all-around master of the arts. And today I just snagged him straight off the airport. Before the memorial tomorrow, we're celebrating a coach from the University of Iowa, and I just wanted to snag Quin and have him talk about some projects that he's doing. So currently, Quin, tell us what you're into.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your podcast. It's great to be here, and it's always great to reconnect.
Yeah.
After those many years of us playing,
for sure,
being at Iowa together. So currently, what I'm doing is I'm doing a lot of writing. I'm doing some producing, as you mentioned. So my mother, Dr. Quin Early, wrote this amazing book about our family history.
Right.
My great-grandfather, 7 generations removed, was a man named Sherrod Bryant. And Sherrod Bryant was a free man of color during slavery. And he sold himself into indentured servitude, and then he went on to become one of the wealthiest landowners of the time, which is a pretty amazing feat.
Was that in New York? Because I know you're from New York.
No, this is in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what happened was my mom put this stuff together and she wrote a book, but unfortunately she was diagnosed with and passed away from Alzheimer's before she had a chance to publish the book. Before she passed away, though, she asked me to publish it for her, so that's exactly what I did. And after I read this book, after I was done weeping over it, I actually wrote a screenplay based on the story. And so currently, we're putting together the budget and the business plan, and we're looking for investments so that we can bring this amazing story of, perseverance and diversity and adversity to life.
Right.
And it's just been an amazing process. I actually had a movie deal last year, but they wanted to own all of my intellectual property. And
when we know better, we do better.
Nothing.
We keep our intellectual property, copyrights, trademarks, all of that.
Exactly. And, but that's how Hollywood works, right? They're going to try to, if they can get you, they'll get you, right? So, but it's been an amazing process. And then right now, we talked about this on the drive over here, but I wrote and am producing a short film called Just Baked Cookies. And Just Baked Cookies is about a young man transitioning from teenager into adulthood, and he struggles. He has an anger problem. His mother passed away many years ago. Now he's being raised by his grandfather, Pops. He gets in trouble, almost kicked out of school. He's in his room. Pops hears him crying in his bedroom. He goes and he bakes some cookies. He puts the cookies on the bed, and the young man says, "Pops, how come every time I get in trouble, you bake me cookies?" Because cookies make you realize that no matter how bad things are, they get better with time. But mostly they make you realize that you're loved. And then Pops takes him to the local martial arts school. Fast forward, he becomes a MMA world champion. He pays homage to all the people that helped him along the way, but most of all his Pops, who now has Alzheimer's. He goes to the Alzheimer's care facility, and he reaches into a bag and he pulls out cookies, and he and Pops eat cookies together. And like we discussed in the car, so it's Pops' story is kind of my mom's story.
Right.
Her battling and going through that journey of Alzheimer's, but also the story of the young man who, in the story, his name is Quentin. That's my son's story. My oldest son, Cameron, is also a stuntman in Hollywood. And he, as a teenager, he got into all kinds of trouble. I mean, he was smoking, drinking, fighting. I mean, you name it, he did it.
Okay.
And when he would get in trouble, I would bake him cookies. And I would always tell him that I believed in him. And now he's a really successful actor, stuntman,
Showed me some of his work. Right.
Yeah, he's got it all together, and he's a really good man. And he's actually directing this short film.
Okay.
So it's just, a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward. Hopefully, we'll see it here next year at the Black Film Festival.
That would be fantastic.
Right.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
our listeners out there are hearing they have an opportunity to invest, reach out to you. What would be the best way that someone could reach out to you?
The best way to reach out to me would be to either email me,
Okay,
quinearly@mac.com. That's probably the best way to do it.
Okay.
Also, I'm on Facebook.
Right.
I'm easy to find.
Right.
Quin R Early. I'm on there, and then you can check out my IMDb page. It shows all of my credits, or just follow me on Instagram.
Okay.
Inbox me.
Now, some other things that we talked about, because our connection starts back at the University of Iowa, and I've had teammates also on our show. Talk about some of your experience there. I enjoyed what you were sharing with our other teammate, Abraham, on the drive over about a rite of passage of a young man, forgiving yourself of mistakes and some of the other things as we're reminiscing about teammates and things. What would be your seed of wisdom?
Absolutely. So the college experience of being a student athlete was just invaluable. I know you would agree with me, but coming in, so there was a few of us, myself, there was a gentleman named Robert Smith, Kerry Burt. These were some of my best friends in college. And right when we got to college, one of the first things that we noticed was some of the older players, once their eligibility was done with playing sports, they were done with school.
Okay.
So we would talk about that and just talk about the fact that, listen, they're using us for athletic ability. We have a free education. Let's take advantage of that. So we made it a point to stay on top of each other and make sure that we went to school, and we made a promise to each other that we would all graduate. And one of the biggest legacies that I'm proud of is that we would pay that forward to the younger guys coming in and just talk about the importance of education, not just relying on athletics, but be prepared to do life, outside of whatever sport, so that's something that's huge. And listen, we all grow along the way, right? I mean,
hopefully.
Yeah, we were young. We did a lot of stuff we weren't supposed to be doing, right? But it's experimenting. But it was just a great experience.
So currently they're paying athletes now. Do you have any thoughts about that? You're listening to Just Keep Living with Marva Hanks. Do you think that's helpful, hurtful?
I think
How do you think that could be leveraged?
Well, when I was at Iowa, I was talking to the coach there, and what they do is, I guess they pay a nominal fee. Oh, you're talking about that? What's going to be coming up in the future?
Yeah.
To me,
it's happening now.
It is
actually
happening.
Yeah, it is happening.
Okay. Okay. To me,
so it's nothing that they can, I don't even say that they can't purchase a mortgage or anything like that, because that has happened with the twin basketball players out of Oklahoma State University. They pooled their income and they purchased their first property, became homeowners, landlords of that. So there's opportunities to do that.
Right.
They're doing that now.
Okay. Well, I think that remains to be seen.
Okay.
What that's going to end up being.
What that monster's going to.
Yeah. What monster that's going to create. And I'm always skeptical of the NCAA and how they're going about things.
Okay.
So we'll see. I do agree with, because paying athletes a nominal amount, especially ones that come from lower income circumstances.
Right.
I know that when I was in college, on Sundays, they wouldn't feed us. And we used to go down to the basement where the laundry was, and we would shake the soda machine and get the change out of it and put it back in and have chips and soda for
that's how y'all did that.
or we would bum pizza off, someone else, So I definitely think that that's a thing where they should at least get something so that they can live. They can buy a pair of jeans. They can get something to eat. Right. Those types of things.
Well, athletes today are making decisions on whether they're in a D1 top tier school or a D2 opportunity just because of the lack of resources. So most of them now, when you go to college, they're upgrading their standard of living.
Right.
If they, if whatever their experience has been at home, they're sending that extra money back home. And so they're making decisions based on that now. Absolutely.
And back when we were in college, there were zero resources. There was zero. If somebody gave you a scholarship, you just kind of went.
That was it.
Now there's just so many choices. There's just so much different opportunity and way to do things and all of that. So it's just a different world.
Right. A different world. So part of the theme for Just Keep Living came from my father, who had a legacy. He was the first Black to attend his college, infiltrated that. He came from Louisiana to Kansas, McPherson, Kansas. And one of the resounding themes he would tell me just about any of my experience was just keep living. So whatever the high, the low, don't get distracted with it. It's going to get better. So that's the theme of us, of the topic of all of my podcasts, are just whatever adversity you're going through, just breathe deep and hang tight. It'll change.
That's fantastic. I really like that. One of the things that I learned very early on is we all have a path. And it's very important, right? Let's just say on your path, let's call it a yellow brick road. There are always going to be side streets. And you might go down some of these side streets. That's okay, because you learn from these, right? But it's always important to come back.
You should.
And you should come back and stay on your path.
Right.
It's just a really important thing. And one thing I used to always tell my children when they were younger is, there's two types of mistakes that you make. They're the kinds that you learn from, which we all do, right? You experiment. But then there are also the kind of mistakes that you pay for. And those are the ones you want to stay away from.
Right. The cost is too high. So, in growing as a person, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from those mistakes, hopefully, and then you're going to get better and improve. And I think that's just a very important thing to aspire to if you want to be successful. Right. So as we talk about going on the yellow brick road and things that may have contributed to your success, you're in town for the memorial of Coach Hayden Fry, who here in Texas, if you didn't know, was the athletic director at SMU at a time, and he allowed the first Black athlete do you have any to infiltrate the conference, not infiltrate, but give him the opportunity to start the legacy. And he did not do that intentionally. So Coach Fry let it be known that he just did that because he wanted the best players at the time. He wanted to set his school up for success. Do you have any thoughts or memories that you would talk about to share with our audience about Coach Fry?
Well, that's one thing. The story that you just mentioned is something that really resonated with me in my decision making in attending the University of Iowa. There were a few reasons why I personally went. Being from the East Coast, there were a lot of guys from the East Coast that were there. I'm an artist. They had a really good art program there. And one of the biggest factors that made me go there was the fact that growing up in New York, I wasn't a Jet or a Giant fan. I was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Right.
And as many people know, the Iowa Hawkeyes have those Pittsburgh Steelers uniforms. And when you're 18, that's huge. So that was a big part of my decision making.
The dress.
The
style,
how you look. How am I going to look on Saturday? But it was just an experience that I can't even really describe it. It's just, and then let's talk about the lineage that he created. All of the coaches, you look at Bill Snyder, the Stoops brothers, Barry Alvarez, who used to be at Wisconsin, and I could go on. I mean, I could sit here for 10 minutes and just name all these coaches.
Go on.
Right?
Jonathan Hayes.
Jay Norvell right now, who's at the University of Reno, Nevada, which is where my son went there and played football. It's just the lineage that he's created, and he lived quite a life. And he was just, I would say he was just a huge mentor in my life. And I'm sorry that I didn't get to see him, before he passed, but coming here to honor him and to, with my brothers and to see people I haven't seen in years, I'm just excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you came in town and that we get to follow up on our visit that we had at the Holiday Bowl.
Absolutely.
In San Diego.
Absolutely.
And so for our Hawkeye fans, we ask that you tune in and follow Just Keep Living on the Podatron Network. Reach out to Quin Early and share your interest in his projects that he has going on. And we look forward to seeing his projects, his short films here next year or the up and coming years at the Black Film Festival in Denton or where there's film festivals around the United States. So we thank you for having us. Our handsome producer, Walter Johnson, on his God Wins podcast. But we thank you for listening in, audience. Everyone at some point in their lives will have to settle the matter of disappointment, whether in people or circumstances. Choose to receive His grace to influence your next step. Just keep living with Marva Hanks.